Hello, welcome to the Mediocre Takes podcast, the podcast where we share our mediocre takes on the shows and movies we watch. I'm Marco, and here with my co-host Mel. How are you doing, Mel?
I'm kind of dizzy.
Are you? That's not
Yeah.
good.
No, it happens.
Does it?
Yeah.
That doesn't sound normal, Mel.
No, it's okay. I just sometimes I get I'm just slightly dizzy for a day, but comes and goes.
I'm actually kind of sleepy, to be honest.
So eepy. Yeah, we're recording earlier than usual.
Yeah, because we need to actually keep our promise with our Batman marathon, and we're
This is the
doing.
last one.
Yeah, this is the last one. So exciting. Honestly, I kind of forgot that it was a marathon, to be honest, because we don't say it during the episodes. We only said it during like the first episode and the second episode, and then we never mentioned it again. But yeah, we hope you guys enjoyed the marathon while it lasted. Anyways, today we're talking about Batman Under the Red Hood. This is Jason Todd's story. I personally really like this movie a lot. And yeah, let's just get into it.
Before we start, we have got to do some background history for the uninitiated, and maybe also for you, Marco. And that means we have to start at the beginning. So, Jason Todd was introduced as the Robin to replace Dick Grayson's Robin in the 80s. But the fans started to hate him because his backstory was kind of retconned and he had sort of a different vibe to him, and they felt like he was too rebellious and edgy. So the writers set up this a death in the family storyline, which put Jason in this dangerous situation, and then was like, okay, call this number and tell us if we should kill him, and you'll never guess what won the majority. So they killed Jason, and then people got mad even though they didn't like him. And then we didn't see Jason Todd until 2005 with the storyline Under the Hood. And this animated movie is an adaptation of that storyline. It got very good reviews, and they garnered a lot of money from this direct to DVD movie. So this is considered a critical success for Warner. Now for the summary. Years after the Joker kills Jason Todd, the second Robin, a new masked vigilante makes moves in the crime world. After some altercations with Red Hood, Batman figures out his true identity. Faced with making the choice of either killing Joker or Jason, Bruce saves both.
Okay, so I like this movie, but I feel like at times Jason Todd was playing too much 4D chess. Jason basically said like he purposely got Black Mask to get the Joker out of prison. Like, what if Black Mask just did something different? Like, what if it didn't go as planned? Like, I don't know. I don't know him that much as a Batman villain or like as a character at all. But in my eyes, I feel like he could have been less predictable because like Jason just kind of knew that he would get the Joker involved for some reason. There was no real logic behind that. He was just like, oh yeah, Black Mask is gonna get the Joker involved because I don't know, the Joker is kind of unhinged and would probably like kill Jason Todd. Like, I guess that's his plan. But I feel like he needed to get like someone more trustworthy, and he should have probably known that the Joker wouldn't like be on his side at the end. Like, he's the Joker. Especially this version of the Joker, I feel like this version of the Joker has like history. And I know that like they don't know that like he killed Jason Todd at the time or anything like that. What I'm trying to say is I feel like most of the villains should know that this version of the Joker is unhinged and will betray them. I don't know. That's just my opinion. I feel like the plotline of Jason knowing that the Black Mask would bring back the Joker from prison just didn't make sense in my head. I just want more of an explanation and more of a plan from Jason Todd. I really like that scene in the beginning of the movie where Jason looks at the bomb and knows he's going to die, and it's just like fully well done. I really loved it. It took me a while to get used to this Joker's voice. Mel, what's your opinion on this Joker? I need to know.
Well, the real question is, how do we feel about Jake the dog being the Joker?
Wait, what?
Yep, same voice actor.
Mel, you need to stop making these voice actor connections because I don't want to know them. I really don't want to know them because it just makes me feel weird. I personally really like this Joker. I kind of liked how unhinged he was. I really like that scene where when Jason Todd is like trying to literally make the Batman choose between him and the Joker, Joker is still laughing and trying to make fun of this situation. Just shows to me like this Joker is really unhinged, and I actually kind of loved it. What was your opinion?
It's interesting that you say he's unhinged because I felt like he didn't feel as unhinged as previous Batmans until the last scene. That's when I really felt like oh yeah, this is the Joker I know. He just seemed more calm and less erratic in the beginning, and it just felt a little off.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. My argument is I feel like For me, I don't really see many Jokers like actually actively killing Robins, you know? So that's where my argument is kind of coming from because like sure we have Batman Beyond Return of the Joker where like Joker basically tortures a child, but I feel like we don't really get to see scenes where he's like actually torturing children or murdering children. I haven't seen that from many Batman animated media. So for me, when I saw that scene where he genuinely like kills Jason Todd, that to me showed me that he was more unhinged than like most Jokers. What's your opinion on that?
I mean, like, his actions were unhinged. I just
Mhm.
feel like the vibes weren't there.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
I sort of feel that way for, like, the voice acting in this. I feel like
Mhm.
'cause this we didn't get the same guy who's been the Batman to
Kevin
voice
Conroy?
act. Yeah, he's not in here, and just, like, I don't think any of the voice actors sounded right for the characters, I guess. Something was just a little bit off for all of them.
I could kinda see that for the Joker, like, sometimes. However, I feel like most of them did just an okay job enough to feel like they were these characters, except maybe the Nightwing.
Oh,
They
you mean
really
Neil
did the
Patrick
Nightwing.
Harris?
Yeah. I don't know, it's something about his voice. I didn't like him in Nightwing. Maybe it's just because the Nightwing wasn't that well used in this movie at all. Maybe that's why I feel such ill will towards the voice actor. Maybe it's just the fact that, like, the writers really did Nightwing dirty in this movie. So I'm gonna skip to where I talk about Nightwing. I feel like they could have used Nightwing in a really interesting way. Like they could have compared him to Jason Todd in some way, or like compared him to Batman in some way. But instead, he's just kind of shows up, fights, and then gets injured, and then just disappears for the rest of the movie, and is only shown in like one scene. I just feel like if they were gonna use Nightwing or that version of Robin in this movie, they could have done something interesting with it. Like you could remove Nightwing from this movie and the movie would still feel kind of the same. Like the only important part that Nightwing actually makes to the plot is when he shows the flash drive of the Red Hood for the first time, and that's like our first like reveal of that character to Batman. Yeah, I just really wish he was used more.
He had a sort of a bigger presence in the comic. I have read the comic, but it was a while ago, so I don't remember everything, but I do know and they cut out a lot from the comic because they had to. There's this scene where Jason, like, blows up Bloodhaven, which is where, like, Nightwing lives. Jason says something like, "Oh, you just got one of your Robins back, and then the other one's gone now." So, he did have a bigger presence in the comic.
I feel like maybe they were playing Nightwing in the movie because of the comic, but they could have just cut him out, you know? Like I'm assuming they had to cut out because each comic is connected to each other because of how crazy comic canon is when it comes to superheroes or something like that. I feel like Nightwing could have just been one of those things that they cut out also. The movie ends with young Jason Todd saying that this is the best day of his life when he first turns Robin, and that made me like actually genuinely sad. Like it hurt my feelings. I love that scene where Jason talks about how he forgave Batman, but he doesn't understand why Joker is still alive. There are so many good scenes, and like near the end, I really love that scene as well. Okay, so this is a small nitpick I have, but I feel like the audio in this movie was too quiet. I was listening to this with headphones, which usually helps with volume, but I had to put this significantly higher because it was just really quiet for some reason. I don't know what was going on. Maybe it was on my end, but it just became a problem for me. I like what they did with Ra's al Ghul in this movie. Okay, so this is my problem. I kind of don't like the fact that they revived him. I feel like I would have liked it better if he just like ran away or something. But at the same time, I understand that like, this is supposed to be like an adaptation of the comic, so they kind of went with the revival story. I don't know. I just kind of feel like I personally didn't like it because in the movie they explain how like they're not sure if that's the real him because when he went into the Lazarus pit, it kind of changed how his brain worked or something like that. Like it messed with his emotions or like messed with him mentally. And they weren't able to tell if that was like genuinely him or not. At least that's what I feel like was hinted in the movie.
That's what, like, Batman thinks, but Jason is also like, "Or has this just been me the whole time?"
I guess I kind of like where they were going with that, but I just personally think the themes would have lasted stronger if that part of the plot wasn't there. I feel like it would add to Jason like trying to make Batman choose between Jason or the Joker. I guess is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, I just like how Ra's al Ghul was added, but I personally feel like I would have liked it if that part of the plot line wasn't added to the plot in general. Okay, so this is another nitpick I have, but how do people know that Robin is Nightwing? Like in the beginning of the movie, Nightwing shows up. Some crooks are like, "Who's that?" And then someone says, "That's Nightwing. He was the first Robin." And I'm like, "Why do people know that? Like, shouldn't that be kept under wraps? Isn't that supposed to be a secret?" I don't know. I feel like Batman would probably keep that kind of a secret because like that would kind of give to the idea of like Nightwing's identity or something like that. I don't know. It just felt kind of strange to me.
I don't think it's about like keeping the secret because like the identity is the secret, but also like there's only so much you can hide about yourself, like the way you fight and like what you choose to do and don't do, where it's like obviously people are going to pick up on patterns. Obviously people are going to notice that
Mhm.
like when this Robin left, suddenly this other guy came up, and then also there's the connection of sort of like, birds. So,
Birds.
I don't know. I feel like, Nightwing.
Oh
Nightwing.
yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, now I get it.
I feel like, I mean, the implications are sort of there.
Yeah, I guess so, but I feel like he knew too much, you know? Like he just like knew. I could see if this would be like a theory that people had or something like that, but like he like said like it was common knowledge. I don't know. To me, it just didn't really make that much sense.
They also just had to tell the viewers, like, yeah, this is the first Robin, by the way, in
Yeah,
case you didn't
yeah, I get
know.
that. Yeah, I get that. But yeah, I guess it would make sense because like the first Robin leaves when he like turns 18 according to you or something like that and becomes Nightwing. And like the second Robin is a literal child. So I could tell like people would obviously be able to tell the difference between those two. I just feel like there would be like a mystery behind that for some reason. Just makes sense in my head. Okay, so this is so goofy, but when Jason took off his helmet and there was the Robin mask still on him, something about that felt so goofy to me. Like, why are you wearing two masks? Something about that, I don't know. Like, why wouldn't it just be like his actual face? You know?
I did love the animation. I love the fluidity of it, as well as the backgrounds. I feel like this was more fluid than the movies we've seen before. The action scenes looked especially great in this. I know we've already established that all the fight scenes are good, but I'd say this one was above the standard. Okay, I do have to speak my truth. It's not that I hate Red Hood and Jason Todd. In fact, the idea of having a Robin that becomes everything that Batman was opposed to is interesting. I just honestly think I don't like him because I don't like bad boys. It's genuinely so obnoxious. That being said, if Jason Todd was a butch lesbian, I would be on Red Hood like white on rice. Yeah, so I don't think that this was in the comic, but in this movie, Joker has a backstory. He was the first Red Hood, and then like he tripped and fell in a vat of acid and became Joker.
Yeah. So I actually mentioned this before during the Batman versus Dracula. Like, was he playing a Van Acid? And you said he didn't have any backstory. I'm like, wait a minute. I can't remember that was one of his backstories at least. So I'm guessing I got that from this movie. I
Oh,
just want to explain.
okay, I don't consider it a backstory because I think it's stupid. I like the idea of the Robin who was killed by the Joker taking on the Joker's old identity. I just hate giving the Joker an origin story. He's so much more interesting of a character when you can't point at one event and say, that's where it all started. It is so much more interesting when we don't know why someone is the way we are, or better yet, if there is no reason and they were just born like that. Okay, the electric staff from one of like Black Mask's fighters legit had lightsaber sound effects. It only happened twice, but I for sure know that it was the same sound effect. And I really just needed to point that out. And what I love about Black Mask is how he is like Joker with roid rage and no humor. Yeah, I'm glad they went with him over the Penguin as like the major crime boss in this film. And also one thing that they did cut out that was in the comic was like what's it? Mr. Freeze was in this as well. You know what? There were a lot of like cameos in this.
What was Mr. Freeze's plotline in this? Because I'm just
Um,
wondering how they used him.
Black Mask tried to recruit him. He really was not that important of a character in this. He did not do much.
Okay.
But there were so many side plots in the comic. Like Superman was there at some point. Zatanna, what was it? Deathstroke. Uh oh, Captain Nazi was in there.
Captain
Who,
Nazi? Who's that?
yep, that's a that's
Captain
a that's
Cap
a villain. Captain
Wait,
Nazi, he straight up
there's literally a
he,
supervillain named
Captain Nazi, and he has a swastika on his chest. Yeah,
What?
he made a cameo in this, like
What?
there were a lot of, like, heroes and villains in the comic. It was really stuffy.
Nazis in my Batman comic? Whoa.
More likely than you think. During the last fight between Bruce and Jason, Bruce smashes Jason's face into every object in that bathroom. How did he not bleed? Like, his hand bleeds when the gun explodes in it, but his face is fine after kissing the sink, toilet, tile wall, Bruce's knee. Like, let's be serious here. Also, something I think is interesting that is different from the comic to the movie is during the last scene when Jason has Joker at gunpoint, and he's like telling Bruce to like make a decision. In the comic, Jason doesn't like try to shoot Bruce. Like he straight up just like tries to shoot the Joker. And Bruce throws his batarang into Jason's shoulder instead of the gun. So I feel like I really did prefer the movie's version of that scene because I feel like it just sort of makes more sense.
And I also liked how instead of like him like just yelling no, he kind of just walked away. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I prefer what the movie did because in the okay, in the comic, Bruce doesn't walk away. He like they're just I think they're having just like a yelling match. In the comic, I think in this scene in particular, it's more of them matching each other's anger, I think, and less of Bruce trying to be like the calm one in this situation. And I really did enjoy Bruce being the calmer one.
Okay, overall thoughts. I think this is a really great movie. Honestly, I'm surprised I liked it this much because I just knew it was about Jason Todd and Mal didn't say much about it, so I assumed like it would be like just an okay movie. But I actually really loved this. Something I didn't talk about, which I think I probably should have, that I just remembered about, is I kind of liked how immature Jason Todd acted because like he was really emotionally stunted because he was murdered by the Joker and then revived. And I just feel like I should have talked about that more, but his emotional state to me like was really what made this movie that good. I really liked the action. I really liked how it ended. I feel like I need to get to know more about what happens to Jason Todd after this. I heard most of the comics or media that deals with Jason Todd after this is kind of like aimless. Mal, is that true?
I think it's not as deep as this. It's sort of like, oh, he's like the moody, broody one. He's like the edgy guy who uses guns.
Yeah, I had a feeling that that was the case. That's kind of disappointing to be honest. I feel like this is definitely like his high point for his character. I'm just not sure how most writers will be able to like write him in the future because I don't know. I feel like he has like some unfinished business with Batman that could be like explored, but at the same time, I don't want like just a reenactment of the movie and the comic. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna try looking more into Jason Todd, but if nothing really good comes out of it, I probably won't talk about it again.
Here's what's really interesting about this. I don't like Red Hood, but I loved this movie, and it has a lot to do with the excellent writing and solid animation. What's truly amazing was how they were able to do it with an hour of runtime. And this is where I'm going to say I prefer the movie over the comic. Because of the short runtime, they really had to just focus on the main story of this unresolved tragedy between Bruce and Jason, and I think they did a really good job with that. So, honestly, if you're just a casual Batman fan and you don't know much about Red Hood, I would say this movie gives you honestly all you need to know. And I really do believe that this is one of the most mature stories. And by mature, I don't mean like there was sex and violence. I mean the story itself is pretty serious and it takes itself very seriously. And really, the only thing I truly didn't like about this was most of the voice actors. I just didn't think they fit well with the characters.
Okay, Mel, I've asked you this before, and I'll ask you again. If you had to predict where you're going to rank this from S to F, where do you predict your ranking will go?
So for now, I'm going to put it at a B, but I do see this possibly going higher into an A.
For me, I think this might go S tier or A tier. I really love this movie. For now, I think I'm gonna put it at S. If I change my mind, it'll probably go to an A. But this movie was just, as Mal said, like really emotionally mature, and I kind of loved it for that. I love the themes. I literally love everything about this movie. There are some problems like Nightwing. I feel like there could have been plot things taken out of this, and the plot would have still stayed structurally secure. But I still really loved it for what it was.
Well, let's get out from under this red hood and skedaddle over to the mediocre minute. What's that? Well, it is a tiny little micro moment where me and Marco recommend books, comics, music, games, and more for you all to check out. My recommendation is actually going to be a pretty fresh comic. It's Red Hood The Hill. There's literally, as of recording this, only 2 issues out. One of them is issue 0. I don't really know if those are counted, but that's one of them. And I have only read issue 0, but I'm really vibing with the setup for the comic. Red Hood, his attitude is very different in this, and it's different from what I've seen before, but I'm really interested in where they go with him. Marco, what is your recommendation?
My recommendation is something different from what I usually recommend. I usually recommend like books, comics, games, and I've recommended an album once. But today I'm recommending like a YouTube, not really web series, more like a story time D&D series, where it's called Fool's Gold, and it's basically this woman like telling her D&D game experience of this campaign called Fool's Gold. At first it's like kind of a comedy, but then it gets really serious really fast, and I love how emotional these characters get. Like, one of these characters literally decides to do a genocide, and I kind of love where this character is going. Not because of the genocide. Let me make that clear. I just kind of like how emotionally broken this character is and how this character changes over time. It's really good. I really love it. It's basically fantasy with a sci-fi backstory. There are like mech dragons and stuff like that. There's magical girls. It's kind of like comedy with some serious elements. So yeah, that's my recommendation. There's also so there's the YouTube series Fool's Gold. Howard, the creator and like the game master, I believe, and the person who's creating like the GD&D Storytime Fool's Gold have created another series, a podcast this time called Fool's Gold Sands, which I believe is a direct sequel to Fool's Gold. I personally haven't started listening to it, but I'm really excited to. I believe there's only like 4 episodes out right now, and each episode is an hour long each. I'm pretty sure you have to listen to Fool's Gold first and then go into Fool's Gold Sands, but check it out. Anyways, you guys, that's our thoughts on Batman Under the Red Hood. If you want to send us a voice message on Spotify for podcasters, there'll be a link in the description to do so below. We also have Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, if that's still a thing, at MidTakesPod. And that's everything. So goodbye.
We did
We
it!
did it.